Welcome to Legal Beagle.
Hello and welcome to Legal Beagle with attorney Kristina Lyke, founder of Lyke Law PLLC. I am Kevin Rosenquist. Today we are discussing custody and parenting time with Kristina. I'm excited to do this. Kristina, it's great to see you. Welcome back.
It's great to see you. Thank you for having us.
So I heard you received a few awards in the last week. First, I'd like to congratulate you on those awards. Can you tell me a little bit about them?
Sure. The first award, actually, I'll show you one of them.
Ooh.
I have it on my desk if anyone can see this.
Fancy. I love it. That's so cool.
Nice? So it's one of the elite attorneys for 2025. I received that because a lot of our peers and colleagues and actually clients have nominated myself and our firm. And it's basically indicating that we've, gone above and beyond for excellence, making sure that, people were well taken care of. And we also received a criminal law award for the 10 best firms for criminal law too as well. So very proud of that. And we also made the Washington Post.
Well, congratulations. You've had quite the week, quite a few weeks.
It's been very, very amazing.
Accolades all over the place.
Yes, very pleased. And I'm very thankful for our staff because I cannot do it without my staff.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you and your team. That's really, really cool. Excited for you guys.
Thank you.
A lot of times men don't receive a fair shake as to custody determinations and maybe that they're treated poorly in custody cases. What are your thoughts on this? And do you personally believe this is true?
Great question, because I hear this question quite a bit and quite often in our field. Men feel that they're treated poorly into the court system. They're always saying to me, I don't ever get a fair shake. I might as well not get an attorney. That's, in my opinion, I believe that some of the problems with this is that men do get sometimes not such a fair shake, depending on what court it is or what judge it is maybe. And the reason why that is because men sometimes, and I'm sorry, men, I'm going to stereotype a little bit here, but they don't pay attention to details. Like they don't remember as much as some of the women, like specific details on for instance, what did the child do when he was about 5 years old, yesterday's details, and they don't write it down or journal it down. And every fact matters for the best interest factors, like for instance, love and affection, and discipline. For the ECE, we have to look at who the child looks to for guidance, discipline, love and affection. And what happens is a lot of fathers just don't have the time because they don't have that ability to, not ability, but basically they forget to write things down. And women usually write every single thing down. They remember every detail. And so what I do is I try to help them and guide them to become a little bit more effective in the courtroom. And so, because sometimes men seem a little gruff when they're around the edges. And what happens is I try to soften them down a little bit and make sure that, because they're really great fathers and and they're afraid to express who they are and express like what they feel for their children. And I'm like, you know what? You love your children. So don't be afraid to admit it. Tell them what you do. You're a great father. Tell them, brag about yourself. This is the time to do it. And when I start doing that, they actually come alive and they're talking about all these different things. But sometimes it's very difficult to get fathers to do that. And so that it does help to have a woman attorney sometimes to actually have a man be represented.
That's an interesting thought, to have a woman attorney, a female attorney to represent you, to get that other perspective. Is it a societal thing? Is this why men tend to not express their express their love and affection for their child or brag about themselves as a father?
I'm not really sure about that. I think sometimes it comes down to that, it comes back to history and how men are afraid to come out. They're supposed to be the gruff and, breadwinner and make sure that they are strong. And they're still strong if they cry. I have 3 brothers. Personally, I've never seen them cry. And I shouldn't probably say that on here if they did. But anyway, it's okay to cry, and men need to know that. And men need to realize that they can express their feelings, because the more that they show to the judge and to the referee, the better off they are with the factors. And they also need to realize too that they're listening to their tone. And it's tone makes a difference, because they wonder, are they being gruff with their kids at home?
Mhm.
Are they being too much of a, authoritarian, or are they being a bully around? So they want to make sure that tone is a very big thing for fathers to get across, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a very good point. So what? How do Michigan courts determine custody?
I've been doing this for about 19 years, practicing law for family law. And I will say this: Michigan starts with the ECE, which is the established custodial environment. And what we look to is, who does a child look to for love, guidance, affection, discipline? And we also look for mental stability. And so, how does the court find those factors about the child, and who does the child look to for those factors, right? So, what we look to is what is called the 12 best interest factors. And we go through, there's 12 of these factors, and we go through love and affection. We look at the bond between the parent and the child. We look at the community. We look at the moral fitness. That can be a fun factor sometimes in some of these situations. We look at, if there's been abuse, whether it's in front of the child or not in front of the child. We look at the community record, meaning, is there children their own age that are relatives around them? Is there moms, grandmas, grandpas, aunts and uncles around? Who goes to like the PTA meetings? Who goes to soccer? Who signs them up for soccer? And then we also look to for religion too as well. And so Michigan takes and looks at the ECE. We look at the 12 best interest factors to find who does actually have the established custodial environment. And then after we find that, then we can go into what is called the parenting time factors. And we use the best interest factors again for that, but we also use the parenting time factors. And the parenting time factors, I always try to use those when I write briefs or argue. But those are another set of factors. And we look at, sometimes, is the child still breastfeeding? That might be a factor. Or is it too much of a problem for the drive for one of the parents to go pick up the children or child? So those are factors that we look at, and that's how we determine custody. And then we get into parenting time. But there's a variety of things that we could talk about with case law and factors, but that's where we start off with.
Is there any difference between being married and having a child out of wedlock when going through a custody battle?
There is. So we have what is called, if you're married and you have children, we call it a DM case. We put a suffix at it, and so it's a DM. So with children that are born into the marriage, we take into all what I just said about the ECE, and we also take that into effect with the child out of wedlock too. But when we have marriage, just so that everyone is aware, the man that is married to the woman is presumed the father, the biological father. So if you have a child that, if you're having an affair during the marriage, right? Not saying that anyone has done this, but it does happen.
Of course.
If you have an affair outside the marriage, then what happens is that father that you're married to is presumed the child's father. So then what needs to happen is we have to do a revocation of paternity act. And that is another show that we'll have to do, because that is very detailed, and a lot of people get that confused. And it's kind of a cool, not a cool, but it's an interesting subject matter. And I'd like to go into detail in another show on that one.
All right. Well, we got another one to do then. I love it.
Sounds good.
So when someone receives an order of custody, when custody is determined, can this be changed once the order is finalized?
Yes, and that's what so I always place this into my welcome letter and my closing letter. So you have an order, and let's say that you have it from your divorce. All custody, parenting time, and child support are always modifiable. And the courts have jurisdiction until the child is 18 or graduates, or 19 and a half and graduates from high school, right? So they still have to attend school if they're 19 and a half. So the court does have jurisdiction during that time period. So what we look for is is there a change in circumstances to affect the child significantly, to change custody or change parenting time. And we get into shade versus right on that too, as well as to the parenting time. But as to your question, yes, parenting time and custody are always modifiable.
Does child support get evaluated with custody, or is that completely separate?
So I always like to tell people this. When you're dealing with custody and child support, we always like to say, family law attorneys say this, it's separate, right? But it's not, because when we take a look at custody and parenting time, child support goes by the number of overnights and it goes by the net income. And there's quite a bit of factors of child support, but we're not going to go there right now. But I like to give the bare minimum on this. But child support does go with the number of overnights, and we always calculate that time and the amount of child support an individual needs to pay, because the fact is it goes by the number of overnights. However, I like to put this caveat out there. That does not mean that you can say, well, she didn't give me my child this weekend, so I'm not paying her. That doesn't work that way, because you'll be held in contempt of court. You might get a bench warrant. I had an individual one time that had a bench warrant, had $25 behind he was, and I thought that was ridiculous. It was only $25. I mean, obviously you should always pay your child support, but they picked him up right in the Taco Bell parking lot. So make sure you pay your child support. Don't say, hey, she didn't give me my parenting time, he didn't give me my parenting time, so I'm not paying anything. No, you don't want to do that. That is a no-no, and the courts will come after you.
That wasn't smart. Imagine how much food he could have gotten at Taco Bell with $25.
I know, right?
Right? Yeah, it's a lot. What is the difference between legal custody and physical custody? I've heard both these terms, but they're different, right?
Whenever I have a consultation, I always say, picture this. So usually my dog Judge is in my office, so I'll have him in my arms, just to show him and say, look, I have physical custody of Judge right now, and I have physical control of him. So that means I have physical, custody of Judge. Now, if I hand him over to you, do you have, physical control over him if we do it on a 1 week on and 1 week off? And usually they'll say yes. So then I give them different scenarios and of how physical custody goes. So basically, physical custody is basically having physical possession of the children in of itself, right? And a lot of people want to have full physical custody or sole physical custody, or they want to consider it joint physical custody. Now, some attorneys say that we shouldn't put labels on there, but I still am one of those people that you always put a label on there. And the reason why is because of the school system. They do not look at joint legal custody sometimes. I can't say all the schools don't, but sometimes the schools don't understand that just because maybe a dad or a mom does not have full custody, they still have rights there to see their grades and see their attendance reports and things of that nature. So, and legal custody that's where we make major life decisions for the children. So if you have joint legal custody, you're basically making life decisions of the child. And what does that mean? We look at schools of choice. Like if the child was in Pinckney and you wanted to place the child in Detroit and you didn't agree, then what you would have to do is you'd have to go into court and argue which school is the best school. And you'd have to do the best interest factors and see what is in the best interest of that child, of what school to go to. And okay. As to legal custody, you have major surgeries, doctors, anything else, medical appointments, making sure that the other parent is aware of what's going on in the child's life as to school, outside activities, and things of that nature.
When custody is being determined, how much, if any, influence does the child or children's opinions or desires weigh?
That is a great question. So a lot of individuals think that children actually can weigh in as soon as they hit age 14. So that's incorrect, because as soon as they hit age 14, they think, oh, well, I can pick wherever I want to go. No, that's not the point at all. Because the court looks to those best interest factors to see what is in the best interest of the child, right? So we do take preference of the child into perception. We look at the child living, at mom and dad's house. But what happens is either a referee or a judge will actually go and talk to the child and find out, what's going on at mom's house, what's going on in dad's house. Now, I don't get to know what the preference is, and neither does my client or the other side. And they keep that, out of the realm, and it's not in the report or anything of that nature. But what we want to make sure is we do get the preference of the child, and we start at probably about age 7 when we know that they understand things, they understand what a lie is and what's not a lie.
Okay. What kind of factors can change custody over time? Like what could cause someone to maybe want to change custody, or from a legal perspective, or even just a personal perspective?
So there's a lot of different ways. We look at change of custody. We look at the Vavarka case, and we have to have it has to be a change in custody, a change in circumstances that significantly affects the child.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we're looking for is what significantly affects the child. Now, there's a threshold we have to go through, and then we have to go through the clear and convincing evidence. But what we're looking for is this: is mom like drinking and driving? So we can go get an ex parte motion right away. Is there molestation going on in the home? Or let's say a basic one, it's not an emergency one, but it's one that we have to change custody. The grades are slipping. Mom is not having a stable home. She has many boyfriends coming into the house. There's different dads all the time coming in, meaning different boyfriends. She cannot keep a job. Those are things that we look at, and those are significantly affecting the child, not only with their mental health, but with going on with their schoolwork, also with the ability with maybe having parenting time with their dad. Maybe dad's not getting the parenting time that they need. Now with parenting time though, it's a lesser burden, which is the Shade versus Wright case. And what we look at is normal circumstances. Is the child getting older? Does the child want to go and play football and mom won't take them to the practices? So those could be a change in circumstances for parenting time alone. And we look at, is the children getting older? Maybe, they're going through puberty. Maybe they need to go and have more time with mom at that time period, if they're women or girls. And if boys, maybe they want to go drive a car and dad's going to teach them how to drive and things of that nature. So we look at normal life circumstances and whether or not maybe mom's having a child and dad doesn't have children, but he's by himself and, he wants to spend more time with dad. So we look at those normal circumstances in life for a change in circumstances for parenting time.
Finally, what advice would you have for anyone, an individual preparing for a custody battle who may be unsure if they need a lawyer, don't need a lawyer, how to prepare? What's your advice to them?
I've seen too many people, they go into court by themselves for custody because they think it's so easy. Mm-hmm. And there are so many cases and so many things. I learn things maybe once a week. I go to a family law seminar that I pay a lot of money for every year. That's a 2-day seminar. I go to other seminars. We learn from each other as colleagues, but nobody knows everything. Nobody. And so when you go and represent yourself, you're not also looking at it objectively. And my professor always said this: if you represent yourself, you have a fool as an attorney. So you always want to make sure that you have good representation, and you don't want to look at the cheap route because, the thing of it is you want to make sure this person has experience, looking at maybe some of the factors. Are you able to tell all the secretive things? Are you able to discuss things with your attorney? And then one of the things that I always say is this: bring a list of all the change in circumstances. Bring your last order, the final order, because it's the final order that we need, because that's the change in circumstances since the final order. And then what we need too is like the past orders. And if there was a motion that was filed, bring that too. And then bring a timeline of the events. And I don't care if it was previous to the order, because we're looking for changes in circumstances. I need to know what the past is, because I like to put that in my motion, place that in my motion too as well. And usually my motions are like around 16 pages long, maybe 10 to 16 pages long. I try to be very thorough on those.
Yeah, that's more than the average person could handle. Let me just say that.
There's a lot of law in it. So
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, good advice as always. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Legal Beagle with attorney Kristina Lyke. To contact Kristina and her team, visit LykeLaw.com, and that's LYKE, of course. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. We definitely appreciate it. Kristina, I appreciate your time. It's been great chatting with you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.